This is Small Business Big World, our weekly podcast prepared by the team at Paper Trails. Owning and running a small business is hard. Each week, we'll dive into the challenges, headaches, trends, fun, and excitement of running a small business. After all, small businesses are the heartbeat of America, and our team is here to keep them beating. All right, welcome to Small Business Big World, our weekly podcast where we talk about all things small business. This week, my guest is Amanda Majewski. Amanda is the, Vice President of HCM Services? Is that your official title? Vice President?
That's the
official title.
Yeah.
I think that's HBIC, right? That's, the boss lady there at Higher Level. So Higher Level is a similar human capital HR company to us. They're out in the Midwest. They've got locations all over the place. But today we're going to talk about kind of strategic planning and building a mission and vision and values and so forth for your company, which we've kind of all been through in our growth. And I think it'll be a good conversation. So thanks for joining me, Amanda.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Yeah. So it's been a wild ride for as many years I've been doing this, but I always tell the girls on the team, you can always learn something new every single day. It don't matter how long you've been doing this.
Absolutely. So we were just doing a little pregame here, but talk to me kind of about, your history at the company and what it's looked like from a strategic planning, perspective as you guys have grown and as a company and as individuals and as leaders, right? That's.
Yeah. I mean, I've been with the company 13 years, and a lot has changed, even just the time that I've been, with the company. I think when you are getting at a place where you have employees, you're just grinding at that point, right? You're just trying to make it happen. And there is no slow down. And maybe you did write down on a scratch piece of paper a business plan at some point. But I can honestly say you can do as much school as you want, work in a corporate world. It is just not the same unless you are working in a small business, I feel like. And there's been a lot of pains and growing pains. But I would say about the third or fourth year in working at the company is when we've been in business 29 years. So, I would say, after me been there a few years was when we started just looking at, okay, we've seen growth. It's been fast. But how do we continue to now build a culture that we want people to work here too at that point? So we invested in consultants. And we've seen a lot of them, worked with many of them. And I would say working with more than one isn't obviously ideal, but as a business, you grow and maybe you outgrow what you had hired a consultant to do. But even when I think about the very first consultant that we had, there are still things that I still utilize from that consultant. And a lot of it had to do around, a DISC assessment and really using those 4 quadrants to think about who is on my team and where are they strong at. And I can't say that enough, finding someone, an outside person, someone that doesn't naturally have to even know your industry, but who just understands people.
That's
having people is the hardest
absolutely
thing.
I'll say, as a small business, so we've been in business now 20 years. I've been with the company 11 years, and we just kind of started truly strategic planning and building kind of our mission and values and so forth last year, and it was really because, again, we were growing fast, and as I was trying to find people, I too was trying to find really was trying to attract people and try to build, like you said, the culture to attract people. And we've spent a lot of time building our, candidate pipeline. We're doing more recruiting. We're reaching out to people. We're kind of building a bench ahead of time when we need people, and we're selling ourselves as an employer. And part of that is, especially if we're pulling people from bigger companies that may have not ever worked in a small business before, they want to know that you're not going out of business tomorrow. They want to know that you have a plan to grow. And that was really kind of
Yep.
transformational to us as we're talking to people. They're like, well, what is your strategic plan? Where are you going? What are your goals? And, of course, as a small business owner, that's all in my head. And I'll say, once I started to write it down, I don't think it surprised me or anybody, who we
Mhm.
were and who we wanted to become.
Mm.
But now I can say, here, this is who we are. This is who we want to become. It's written down, and that's been really powerful. So it's funny you mentioned those
Oh,
disc assessments, because we too have started to do that with our new hires. Something It's
yeah.
like a hybrid of the disc, something else,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's been really cool because we go through an interview process and then we'll run them through an assessment. And this consultant that we
Mhm.
use to manage that, he'll come back, give us a full report, and say, okay, this person will work really well under this manager, but not this manager, or
Right.
what, because their motivations, their interests, their, work ethic, whatever is different. Or you want them in this role. Well, they don't have the right mindset or motivation or life goals
Exactly.
for that. So that's been really,
Yeah,
really cool too.
we in addition to a lot of that, back to kind of scaling, and I mean, when I first came to the business, I was doing business development. I didn't have formal business development training or had done it previously, but I had the right skills at that time that, the company was looking for to find and cultivate new businesses. And then, oh, 3 years ago now, 4 years ago, a couple colleagues had attended a conference, and a group who manages um, like the Sandler
Yep.
training, they did a great presentation, and we hired them to again help culture those sales skills, especially in a lot of us, veterans who'd been doing it a long time, and a little difficult to kind of, break some of those bad habits. But at the same time, it's that mission for us to always be growing. And um, I would say about 10 years ago is when we really started writing down, what is that mission? What does that vision look like? What are our core values? Because it just seems like ever since, right before COVID, the people that we were interviewing, they want to know those things. Like they want to make an impact, and it was really important to us to make sure that we're continuing that mission, and but we're talking about it every day, not just the interview process or our annual retreat where we do meet at the end of the year and plan for the future. What do we want to accomplish the next year? um, and I think the biggest thing for us, for people to be successful, and I think this kind of goes back to whatever you decide for what your mission or vision or core values is going to be, I cannot stress the importance of this one phrase: comfortable is a slow death.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I
we use the
if
term grow or die.
if you're going
We use the
to,
term grow or die, right? That's
yeah,
that's our business and that's our
yeah,
industry. We got to grow or we're going to die.
exactly. Exactly. And if the person that we're interviewing does not, get excited when you say something like that, they're just going to be an 8 to 5er. And maybe that's okay for some people, and how you want to set your business up for success. As a small business, you have to be ready for uncomfortable every single day, because it's going to
Sure.
happen. Um, so I just cannot stress that more than anything from what even I've learned, and just setting expectations for team members when they do join our team, that it's a hard job and it's not for everyone. um, but how do we make sure that we set them up for success in the beginning? One, they're aligned with our mission, vision, and core goals, and that they are looking for a career path.
So one of the things that
So
we went a little step further this year. We worked on our mission, our vision, our values, and we went one step further and we created kind of service standards that go along to support those kind of things. And I think we have
yeah,
18 kind of service standards. They're, one
yeah,
sentence, this is how we deliver great service. This is how we do this. And, every week at our weekly team meeting, I talk about one of those standards and I say, okay, who has a win? Who can give me a good example of using this standard this week? And,
yeah,
so that helps kind of cultivate the team. And again, I have some folks that have been with us for, we still have employee number one working for us. She's very close to
Mm.
retirement, and I'll cry on that day. But, she's
Yeah.
employee number one, the first employee Debbie ever hired when she started Paper Trails, um, to now 20 something years later, where, things have changed and she's had to change with us and the business has had to change. And then now I have to help manage the folks that are just coming on, the 3 brand new employees we hired this year, bring them into the fold and making sure everyone's on the same page. And I think writing it down, memorializing it really helped us and me as a leader to deliver that message more consistently, which I think was really transformational.
Yeah, I think again, and it'll take time for anyone really to get there, but writing down the things that are most important to you, or back to, why did you start the business in the first place, right? Those are your core values. So for whoever's listening out there, that if you're trying to figure that out, it's okay. You'll figure it out along the way, and no, there's not just one written book. There's millions of books out there to help you. But you just always think back to, why did you start this business in the first
So
place?
it's, yeah. So how did you guys go about that process? I know you said you hired a consultant, did you do vision boards and
Yeah,
all that kind of, all that fancy stuff?
we did. We did all of that. We had which actually you can probably see. You see that sticky board
Yeah.
right behind me? Those big post-its, those really big
Yep.
post-its. We have gone through, I couldn't tell you how many of those over the years. And it literally is just putting them up on the wall. We first kind of would always start just like a big group kind of brainstorming, and just writing ideas down. And then we would sectionalize the certain ideas. And then we would break out into groups, further go through that, particular now smaller list, and figure out what is the most, almost kind of like
Yeah.
prioritization, because you can't accomplish it all. But what is the most important, or what is the most critical thing, or what's going to, get you to that revenue threshold that you want to be at? And then those are your priorities. And the other's it's just going to have to wait, or it just doesn't make the list. And that's okay.
So yeah,
So yeah.
when I started kind of writing my, the mission and the vision and the values and so forth, I actually,
Yeah.
I kind of did it myself, as I'm like, okay, I'm the leader and I need to get my thoughts of, again, why we're in business and where we want to go. And I rented myself a hotel room for the day, and I literally went because I needed to get away. It was kind of my own little conference. And I really kind of
Yeah.
worked through some of that stuff. And I said, okay, I had been taking a bunch of notes because had been a goal of mine personally. So I had, pages of
Right.
notes of different things from the last several months. And, I kind of did the first framework. And then I came back and I said, okay, to my management team, this is who I think we are and who I think we want to become and why we exist and so forth. What do you think? And they actually came back and said, well, you're too ambitious there, right? That word is, but
Right. They brought you
yep,
back down to
yep. But they
reality,
also
just a
said,
hair,
hey, you forgot about, this whole piece. What about our community involvement? That was one thing that really is something we are very involved. I'm very passionate about serving the community and giving back to the community that supports
Yeah.
us. And so is my team. I encourage everyone to volunteer and be on boards and all that stuff. And it was like, so that was something we had to add, right? Like, yeah, this is who we are. And where we want to be. So that was really, everyone has a different process. And it's funny, I went to a conference earlier this year where there was a strategic planning um, session, and that was another leader in our industry, and she basically wrote like a 2 or 3 page story to herself of like what she wanted to be in 12 months and in 2 years, and that was her way of doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a different approach. That's not me. I'm a little more, you know, blocky and black and white, I guess. But it was kind of neat, something totally different that I didn't think about.
Yeah.
Were you
No,
not such
that's a
with
great way
that
to think
at
about it.
IPPA?
So, no, I've not been to
Yeah, you
IPPA in a
didn't.
while.
That's right.
So,
So
yeah, I've not been in a long time. That obviously is a different perspective. I hadn't thought about it.
she basically wrote
I
herself
think
a
that's
story,
obviously great.
and this is the story I want, how I want my company to be in 2 years. And she kind of wrote herself like a two
Yeah.
or 3 page story, and that
Yeah, I think
was
that's great.
that was her way of doing it.
Yeah. No, I love
So
that. I think it's always important, once you do build that. I love the fact that, that you said, bringing it back to the team. we do that a lot too because I don't want to hire 10 of me, right? I want to have people that have different ideas that I want people smarter than me. I mean, I want to be someone that I can lead you to water and you can take off and run with it. And that's obviously always hard to do. But I think when we know what our core values are, that always just goes a long way with making sure that we're trying to hire the right people that want to have the same beliefs as you do. The I had mentioned, yeah, we've worked with consultants and we've worked with many over the years. But the one that we've been working with the past, gosh, now 4 or 5 years, that's the longest stint that we ever worked like with the same person. But I think sometimes you just know, right, when you finally found that right person and she gets us, and her style of the training that she brings to us. We first started out where it was just meeting with management. We don't even do that anymore. It is at a company wide, once a quarter, we meet with her and we break it up into, mini sessions throughout the day. So it's smaller groups, smaller pods. And I think the greatest thing with that, with her leading it that way, is that we're constantly going back to, our mission and our vision, because we always have to be talking about it. And we are really big about, that self reflection. Where is my own impact? What did I do to contribute to this? What could I do to contribute to this? Because at the end of the day, everyone has to be on the same boat as you. We all have to be working towards the same greater good. And if everyone on the team does not align, or as we talk about with our consultant now, we all have to have the same beliefs. And if we're not all there, we're never going to accomplish the things that we
Yeah,
want.
and that's really important too. Right? We've seen that impact here as well because
Yeah.
when I did our our mission, our vision, value, so forth, then we got together kind of as the management team, and we did our strategic plan for the next kind of 18 months, 2 years. And once we kind of
Right.
built that, then we rolled it out to the team for the first time ever. Right? It wasn't just me rowing in the direction by myself. I need everybody paddling. We're not going to get across the finish line. So we got together late last year, rolled out to the whole team. This is where we're going for the next 18 months, 2 years. And now I can tell you, we're, at this point, we're recording this in August. We're about, 8 or 10 months into our plan. Have things changed? Absolutely. Have we adjusted and
Mhm.
adapted? Absolutely. The management team and I meet on a quarterly basis to review that strategic plan and say, okay, so we're holding ourselves accountable. Okay, what have we accomplished? What do we need to accomplish? What has zigged or zagged or changed? And it is a living document. It's not something, especially in business today, like you said,
Oh,
every day
absolutely.
is uncomfortable. Every day has, issues. And that brings up, there are opportunities and changes that happen every day. So, it definitely is important to kind of hold yourself accountable to your goals as well. But then we just did last week a kind of a mid-year update for our team. We did everyone in the room. We did, half a day lunch training, strategic planning update, some fun. And I said, okay, remember what I told you, last year, this is where we were going. Here are our sales goals and how close we are to getting them. And this is why, this is what's worked, what hasn't worked. Here's our, operational goals. We told you we were going to hire this many people. We have, or we haven't done this, or we have done that. We told you we're going to make some efficiencies here and there, and we have, but we're continuing to work on those. And oh, by the way, these are some things that we're adding that weren't originally there. And this is what's going to happen, what our plan is for the rest of the year. And that was a really good
Yep.
conversation for everyone in the room to say, for them to ask me questions like, okay, what, we tried this a couple months ago, it kind of fell flat, what happened? And, it was really, really good conversation. I think I always sometimes have a hard
Mhm.
time reading the room because I'm a talker and I always am talking too much, I feel like, but, you know, I, I think everyone left feeling, like they knew where we were going, what was going on, based on the conversations anyway. I mean, I don't think we see that big rah moment like you might see in the movies, but, it wasn't Wolf of Wall Street. Nobody was banging their chests going paper trails, paper trails, paper trails. But I feel like it was a really good day. as we were all having a good conversation. So, and that's
Yeah, I
important. Let
think it's
everybody work in
just
this direction.
I yeah, I think also, obviously having the team get together, that's important. And, we do weekly meetings as well and talk about numbers, where do we need to work or improve, whether it's operating efficiencies or, do we need to fire a client? They're sucking the life out of us, whatever it may be. Those are things, those are very important details. And at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and I want the team to feel like they are a part of something that they signed up for.
Yeah.
So,
In that second piece, in that kind of service standards we created, one of them is you own the client experience and I trust you
yeah,
to do whatever you need to do
exactly.
to either take care of that or take care of the business, right? And sometimes that might mean you coming to me and saying, this client isn't right for us for X, Y, and Z reasons, right? And I mean, I have
Mhm.
told my staff probably more than once, fire them, right? Like not all clients are right for us. And of course, even if we ever do that, it's not like, it's not the Donald Trump you're fired moment. It's, we just don't feel like we're the right
Yeah.
thing for you. Let's work on a transition out. We will help you do whatever you need to find a better provider, whatever that may be. There's a right way to do it, of course, but we've learned, and that is giving good service to that client, but also to all of your other clients, because 9 times out of 10, that bad client is sucking your resources. They don't want to pay. They're bringing morale down. It's just not a good thing for the
Mhm.
organization, including for your employees who you obviously want to come to work and be happy, but the organization as a
Yeah,
whole.
yeah, we actually just recently started, um, I wouldn't say a campaign, but back to, you have people on your team that you expect that they're inspecting some work, and we know labor is expensive, and we have to be constantly looking at our efficiencies because we don't want to have to hire more people to do the same amount of work, etc. Right? And so, we really just have been focused on where can we improve our time for processing, right? Our time for getting payrolls done, etc. And because now team members, especially some newer team members, they're just so focused on that they forget, oh, I need to have a conversation with the client. Well, how do I have that conversation with the client? You know, um, and at the end of the day, a client has to be now retrained on a process when they're like, well, it was working before. Why did it change? And so then it's slowing down and having that, I wouldn't say fierce conversation, but realigning with the client what we are capable of doing, because we've talked about it internally. The team, they understand it, and they're like, yes, let's do this. I want to make more money. Well, we've got to streamline these clients. And then they forget that next step. So I think, again, when you are building, to your point, service standards or what your core values are, that communication and over communication is important for a small business, because as we know, those big box providers, why do clients come to us? Because they're getting
Sure.
service.
And service is also helping your clients with things they didn't know they needed help with, which sometimes
Yeah,
is those are those efficiencies, right? And I
absolutely.
tell people that all the time, just because I'm providing the client with the resources or the tools to do the work better, that's not bad service. That's you're helping them be
Right.
more self-sufficient, and they're going to get the things they need or know how to do things on a Sunday afternoon when we're not in the office, and we're not going to be responding to that email and whatever, right? So
Absolutely.
again, stop and
Yeah.
take that second and say, hey, can we help you figure this out so that you're not so reliant upon me? I think and that is
Yep.
good service. So
I know, and it's so strange because then now you've got to explain that to the client, and you forget that they become so dependent upon you. And we love every client, right? We love all our clients. But at the end of the day, we're here to make higher level better. We're here to make money. and we are here to make an impact, not only internally. I talked about I want the team to have career paths. What do they want to learn? What do they want to get to know? But there also has to be, I feel like, when it comes to clients and, again, part of your strategic planning, who is an ideal client for you? I think that is so important. That's something you have to consider in your strategic planning as
Right. And
well.
who do you want to go
Who do you want to do business with? Exactly. Who are you going to target? And I think, again, we've been able to identify those things with working with, the sales consultant that I talked about, that follows the Sandler model. It just really just brought a lot of that to light because otherwise you're wasting time,
Absolutely. We started our
I cannot
strategic
stress
planning
that.
kind of with a SWOT analysis, our strengths, our weaknesses, opportunities
Yep,
and threats. And to be honest with you,
absolutely.
that, quadrant project, thing, we did the same thing. We took the sticky notes and the big sticky notes, put them on the wall, and everyone wrote, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are the opportunities and what are the threats?
Mhm,
And we tried to say, okay, how do we capitalize on our strengths and continue to
mhm,
manage that? What opportunities are out there?
mhm,
How can we retool our business to take advantage of those opportunities? What weaknesses do we need to work on? And what threats do we need to be aware of and defend ourselves from? And that formed our strategic plan. I mean, that right there was like, gosh, we basically took everything off and put it in different categories, and that was our strategic plan. And I think that alone was how we got there. It was a couple
absolutely.
hours in an afternoon. We went off site. We had a
Oh,
few
yeah.
minutes where everyone could be together and be focused. And I can't stress that enough too. I mean, I'm just as guilty of this, getting sucked into the day to day. And, sometimes you have to take a step back. You have to get away. I've done it where, our operations manager and I were working on doing that kind of career development plan stuff. And I said, let's go to my house. Let's sit at the kitchen table and let's work on it there where the phones aren't ringing and, people aren't walking into the
Yeah.
office and, there's not much.
Yeah, they're not walking to your
You just need
office.
an
Yeah,
hour. Come
exactly.
sit at the dining room table for an hour and we can get this done. I think
Yeah,
that's really important as well. And you have to know when to do that. So
yeah. I agree. I think once you've gone through all of that and you're doing this, whatever, on a regular basis, I know you talked about even quarterly revisiting, and then of course annually revisiting what did you do well, what do you need to do better on, the SWOT analysis. We've done that as well. But at the end of the day, though, I've talked about this a little bit, but your team has to be all on the same page with you, right? So we've have then even gone to the level of, all right, we've met as a management team or small group to come up with these things, but now we're going to do it again with the entire team, and let's see if their SWOT analysis is somewhat similar to ours. And it oh my gosh, it's just such refreshing to see that, okay, they know where we are heading towards because they also are writing down the same things as well. um, I think the biggest element to the almost like an extension to the strategic planning really is meeting on a regular basis with your team members. We do monthly, we call them monthly either strategic sessions or roadmap recaps. And sometimes I feel like I'm a coach for some of my clients because a lot of them also are struggling with, finding the right talent or keeping the right talent or, what challenge that they may be having with, something HR related. But it's always around performance, it seems like. Um, but the roadmap or strategic session is designed to, recap what you reviewed last month. People we have like a formal sheet they fill out, um, goals that they're working towards, their individual goals, back to their own professional development training. What do they want to accomplish? And we're not big on titles
yeah,
here at higher level. I don't really care for them, but it does mean a lot to people. And I'm fine with that. But at the end of the day, I want to know that you have found some sort of passion or career path that gets you up every day and makes you want to come to this job and do it well every single day. So I cannot stress, while maybe you do the big stuff, planning, you've got to bring it down every single level with each team member and know where they're at on a monthly basis when it comes to, what are they owning their impact on? Are they staying focused on what things that they said that they're going to do?
Absolutely.
So,
So since you've been kind of working, you've been strategic planning, you've had your, high goals and
mhm.
vision and values and so forth. What have you guys seen in terms of results for, operationally and performance wise? How has that really made an impact for you?
Yeah, I cannot. To me, it is, they have the same level of investment. Back to the folks that want to work an 8 to 5 job, they don't work well in our company. Maybe in others, but our organization, the level of just expectations to do the work that we do is really hard and challenging anyway. But when, you know, I'm out selling the bill of goods of higher level, the number one thing that I'm selling, because, obviously you and I, we operate on the same software,
Yep.
right? I can't say that my software or my products is better than yours, right?
Absolutely.
It's not going to
I tell people
matter,
that all the time. Listen, our
you know?
product that we sell is essentially the same as almost anybody else in our industry, give or take a few
Yeah.
features, right? But what it comes down to is how we take care of you, the service that you expect and so forth.
Yeah.
And that's really what we sell is
Yeah,
service.
exactly. I'm selling my team, right? I'm selling that they're getting, these certain people on my team that have great skill sets. And now then it's their turn to deliver when if I'm outselling that bill of goods, the people that they get on our team. So I think ultimately you've got to have those check-ins with them on a regular basis. I mean, sure, I know you said it. We do this as well. We do a weekly team meeting, but that's everyone on the team. There's now like 25, 26 of us on our team, and that's hard to do from a level of like, okay, we're going to do this strategic meeting every Friday. We can't take our entire Friday to do that, but these monthly sessions allow for that one-on-one time to meet, go through, pull out your notes from last month. Where are we at? Where are you at? Because I want the team to be able to hold themselves accountable to the strategic plan that they're putting in place for themselves too.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's really
So,
cool. So obviously
yeah.
we're in the same industry. We are very similar mindset. But I
Yep.
think the one thing that I want to let everyone know, this is something that any business can do, at any right?
Oh,
And again,
absolutely.
you guys were
Yeah.
in business for almost 20 years, 15, 20 years before you really started to do this. We were in business 20 years before we really started to kind of get
Yeah.
our shit together and get, do some strategic planning and figure out who
Yeah.
we wanted to be when we grew up, right?
Yeah.
So there's right?
Basically. That's
It's
what
it's
it was.
not,
Yeah.
we're not saying we're perfect, but certainly anybody has the
No.
opportunity here to start at any point. It's never too late, and it really can make a difference. I think we both have seen really big impacts by creating our missions and our visions and values and our common purpose with the team and setting those standards and sharing that and working with the team and developing the team. And you tell your clients, right? Hey, this is who we want to be. This is who we are. We've created our brand video for the website, and it talks about our values and who we are and why we do what we do. And so, as we're looking for clients and
Mhm.
employees, we're finding people that are like-minded and have the same principles and so forth that we have. So, I think
Yeah, that's funny that you say that because this client call that I had yesterday late was really about that. I mean, she's been with us 3, 4 years now. And now we're asking her to change her ways. And she's like, well, it wasn't like that when I signed up. I know it wasn't, but as a company, we have grown. And just like you, I understand. you have they've got 30 employees or so. Like they're starting to experience
Absolutely.
that. I mean, they've not maybe have been in business as long as we have been. And at the same time, though, it's finding that common ground as, listen, it's hard hiring people. I see your turnover. I know what's happening. We're also in the same boat. We have to find ways to improve our processes. And at the end of the call, it ended up being really great. And she's ready to do some training. After beginning the call, she didn't want anything to do with it. But that is such a key piece in the work that anyone does. And this doesn't have to be just in our industry, like you said. It wouldn't matter if I was, honestly, I don't know where I would be if I hadn't been at higher level. But at the same time, I know that I want to be somewhere that I can have a voice, I think is obviously critical. Having those touch points on a regular basis with your team members so that you are aware of what's happening in your company.
Absolutely. Well, good. Well, hopefully everyone got a little bit out of this, and certainly I think I've had fun. This is fun for me anyway, but the bit.
I know I was writing down a couple of notes. I was like,
I do too. I'm like, I got to look at this. I got to look at that. So it's definitely been good. So as a reminder, everyone, please like, follow, share, rate, review, subscribe. We are everywhere you get your podcasts, Small Business Big World, and at smallbusinessbigworld.com. If you have any questions for us or any of our guests, you can always email us at podcast@papertrails.com. How do folks get in touch with you, Amanda? If they Instagram, you guys at Higher Level on Instagram?
Oh yeah, we have all the social media that you can think of: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I mean, you name TikTok. I mean, we have all of the handles. So
their TikToks are better than ours. They actually do funny dances. And
yes, they've spent a lot of time on that. But I'm more of an Instagram type of person. But they definitely post some fun stuff out there.
And that's HRIE level. Hiring employees.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yes, that's right.
Well, thank you, Amanda, and thanks everyone for tuning in this week, and we will see you again next week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Small Business Big World. This podcast is a production of Paper Trails. We are a payroll and HR company based in Kennebunk, Maine, and we serve small and mid-sized businesses across New England and the country. If you found this podcast helpful, don't forget to follow us at Paper Trails Payroll across all social media platforms, and check us out at papertrails.com for more information. As a reminder, the views, opinions, and thoughts expressed are the hosts and guests alone. The material presented in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered legal or financial advice. By inviting this guest to our podcast, Paper Trails does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific individual, organization, product, or service.